I want you to close your eyes for just a second.
Hopefully not if you're driving right now.
Right, yeah. Please keep them open if you were behind the wheel. But otherwise, picture the ultimate vacation fantasy. You know the one I'm talking about.
The postcard image.
Exactly. You have saved up for months, maybe years even. You booked a flight to a tropical island.
You're picturing that specific shade of turquoise water.
Yeah, the one that only exists in travel brochures.
Right.
You can feel the sun on your skin. You see the clear blue sky above you.
Maybe a little cool breeze off the ocean.
Yeah, perfectly refreshing. It's the dream we are all sold.
It is.
Now open your eyes, you land the plane, you step out of the airport terminal, you've got your luggage in hand, and you're ready for paradise. But instead of blue, the world is
orange.
It is orange.
And not a nice sunset orange either.
No, we are talking about a heavy, oppressive, almost Martian orange. The air is thick. It literally feels gritty against your skin. You look toward the horizon where the ocean should meet the sky, and there's nothing there.
Just a wall.
Just a wall of haze. Visibility drops to practically zero. You can't see the ocean. You can't see the mountains.
It feels like you just walked onto the set of Blade Runner 2049.
Or Dune. I mean, it really feels like the apocalypse. But it is not science fiction.
No, it is very real.
It's a very intense weather event. And today for this deep dive, we are going to look at exactly what is happening in that picture.
Because for millions of people, this is just a seasonal reality. What you're describing is a meteorological phenomenon called Calima.
Calima?
Yeah, or sometimes, depending on the meteorological logs, you might see it spelled with a K, Calima.
It sounds almost poetic, doesn't it?
It does a bit.
Like a gentle breeze or, I don't know, a cocktail you would order at the beach bar.
I would order a Calima.
Right. But from what we've been going through in the source material for this deep dive, it's anything but gentle.
Oh no, it's an absolute beast of a weather system.
It really is.
If we want to define it simply, Calima occurs when fine sand and dust particles from the Sahara Desert get lifted up into the atmosphere.
Okay.
And then they are transported by prevailing winds.
But I feel like that simple definition kind of hides the sheer scale of the thing.
Oh, absolutely. Because when you say dust...
I think of needing to Swiffer my bookshelf.
Right, exactly. This is not shelf dust. We aren't talking about a little bit of dirt kicking up from a construction site down your road.
No.
We are talking about millions of tons of suspended earth moving across the globe.
Millions of tons. That is the part that just completely blows my mind.
It's staggering.
We are essentially talking about an entire mountain's worth of dirt just floating over the ocean.
Precisely. And that really brings us to our mission for this deep dive.
Yes.
We want to understand the mechanics of this. Like, how does a desert in Africa manage to shut down airspace in Europe?
Right. We need to look at the physics of the atmosphere that actually allows that to happen.
And we also need to look at what happens when that dust finally lands.
Because the impact is huge. We are talking health consequences, society just grinding to a complete halt, and even a connection to wildfires that I found absolutely terrifying in the sources.
It is a really complex web of cause and effect. It connects geography, physics, and human biology. So we should probably just start at the beginning.
The origin story.
The origin story, yes.
Okay, so we know this stuff comes from the Sahara, but I have a really basic physics question right out of the gate here.
Sure.
Sand is heavy. If I go to the beach right now and throw a handful of sand in the air, it just falls right back down onto my feet.
Right.
It doesn't float over to the next town. So how does this stuff get from the ground up into the sky and then stay there?
That is the fundamental question. And to answer it, we really have to look at the movement of air masses over the Sahara itself. And it all starts with heat.
Okay. Sahara is hot. Shocking news, I know.
Stop the presses, right?
Yeah. Breaking news from the deep dive.
But it is the way it heats up that matters. We have to talk about a concept called extreme diurnal warming.
Diurnal warming. Okay, I know diurnal means daily, but break down the actual mechanism for us. Why does that specific type of warming matter?
So in the Sahara, you have this massive, massive shift in temperature between the day and the night.
Yeah.
The sun beats down on the sand, and because sand has a very low specific heat, the ground gets incredibly hot, incredibly fast.
Right, it doesn't hold on to it like water does.
Exactly. So that heat from the underlying layer, the sand itself, is transferred to the air right above it through conduction.
Oh, okay. So the floor is basically lava.
Effectively, yes.
And it is just cooking the air that's touching it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we all know hot air rises.
Right.
So this intense, rapid heating creates massive instability in the lowest layer of the atmosphere.
Because you've got superheated air trying to push its way up.
Right. The air near the surface becomes very warm and very dry, but as it rises up, you get this convective mixing. It starts to cool down as it gains altitude.
So you have this churning engine of air, hot and dry at the bottom, rising up, cooling and mixing at the top. It sounds like a pot of boiling water.
That is actually a really good analogy.
Yeah.
And interestingly, as it reaches the top of that convective layer, it humidifies just slightly. But the real key here is the turbulence.
The churning.
Yeah. Because the environment in the desert is so arid, the soil isn't packed down.
It's not like mud or heavy clay.
Exactly. It is fine. It's incredibly loose. It is easily liftable.
So the ground itself is essentially just waiting to be picked up.
Right. So when you have this unstable, violently rising air, and then you add strong winds into the mix, that dust doesn't stand a chance. It just gets sucked right up into the atmosphere.
Wow. And we aren't just talking about any random gentle breeze here either.
Definitely not.
The research mentioned some very specific heavy hitters when it comes to the wind in this region.
Yes, we are specifically looking at the Harmattan and the trade winds.
The Harmattan.
Yeah. These are the engines that drive the transport phase. They scour the surface of the desert and they lift those millions of tons of sand and dust that we talked about earlier.
And the altitude they reach, I mean, it is staggering. I saw a number in the notes that made me double take.
The 6,000 meters.
Yes, 6,000 meters.
Yeah, that is roughly 20,000 feet.
20,000 feet. I mean, that is cruising altitude for some turboprop planes.
It is.
We are talking about a cloud of dirt that is 4 miles high.
It creates a dense, suspended cloud that is incredibly tall and incredibly vast.
That's insane.
And once it is up there, at that 20,000-foot altitude, it enters the global circulation. It can travel thousands of kilometers.
It's amazing to think about. You have this dust that was sitting on a sand dune in Algeria or Mali yesterday, and today it is at 20,000 feet heading straight for the Atlantic Ocean.
Exactly.
So it goes up, and then it moves east.
Well, it moves in the eastward atmospheric circulation, but here is the really fascinating mechanism that brings it to places like the Canary Islands. As this hot, dusty air mass moves out over the ocean, the entire situation changes. Because the ocean is obviously much cooler than the desert sand.
Right, the Atlantic is cold.
Exactly. And this creates what we call a temperature inversion.
An inversion.
Yeah. So you have the cool air from the ocean below sitting right on top of the water.
Okay.
And then you have this hot, dusty layer moving in right above it.
And because hot air is lighter than cold air, it just floats on top of it.
Precisely. The dust basically gets captured above this marine inversion.
Oh, wow.
It rides that cooler layer across the water like a conveyor belt until it hits the islands.
I really like that idea of it being captured. It's almost like the atmosphere creates a custom highway specifically for this dust.
It does.
It prevents it from just falling down into the ocean along the way.
That is a great analogy. It is a conveyor belt. But unfortunately for the people living at the end of that belt, it drops the cargo right on top of them.
Right. And that brings us to section 2 of our deep dive.
Yeah.
When the dust actually lands.
Yeah.
Because I am really trying to picture this. If you were standing in the Canary Islands and the Calima rolls in, what does that actually feel like?
Well,
Is it just like a sandstorm in a movie where you are getting pelted with dry grit?
it's a bit more complex than that, actually, because of that marine layer we just talked about.
Oh, right. The cold ocean air.
Yeah. Remember, the dust is riding over the ocean. So even though the dust itself is dry desert sand,
Right.
the air in that inversion layer below it is humid.
Oh, that is interesting. So it is wet air, but dry dust.
Exactly. And that combination often results in fog or drizzle covering the islands along with the dust.
So it's like mud rain.
Essentially, yes. It can feel like a dirty fog.
Yeah.
You get this haze that isn't just moisture, it is particulate matter.
Wow.
And that really brings us to the most immediate impact for the people on the ground, which is their health.
Yeah, I mean, breathing in sand does not sound like a recipe for wellness.
Yeah.
I imagine it is incredibly gritty in your throat.
It definitely is not good for you. The dust particles settle out of the air and they cause significant respiratory problems.
I'm sure.
If you have any pre-existing respiratory conditions, asthma, COPD, anything like that, Calima is legitimately dangerous.
Because these aren't just big grains of beach sand, right? We're talking about microscopic stuff here.
Exactly. We are talking about PM10 and PM2.5.
Okay.
Those are particles small enough to get deep, deep into the lungs.
So I assume the primary advice from officials is to just stay inside.
Ideally, yes. Lock the doors, close the windows. But if you have to go outdoors, the recommendation is very clear. You have to wear respiratory masks.
Right.
You need to filter that particulate matter out before it gets into your lungs.
It really reinforces that sci-fi image we started the show with, walking around a foggy orange landscape wearing a gas mask.
It's very dystopian.
But it's not just about health, is it? It is about the fact that modern society just isn't built to function inside a dust cloud.
That is a crucial point. We completely rely on visibility. We rely on clear air for almost everything we do.
Yeah.
When Calima hits hard, it causes massive societal disruption. It forces the suspension of basic public services.
And the biggest one has to be transportation.
Absolutely. The airports are always the first major infrastructure to feel the pain.
There was a specific date mentioned in the research that really highlights this perfectly. January 8th, 2002.
Yes, the Santa Cruz International Airport.
Right.
That event serves as a perfect case study for the sheer density of these clouds. On that day, the airport had to close completely.
And just to be clear, why did it close?
Because visibility fell to less than 50 meters.
50 meters?
Yeah.
That is nothing. That is half a football field.
It is practically driving blind. I mean, if you were a pilot trying to land a commercial jet, 50 meters is effectively zero visibility.
Where you can't see the runway until you are already on it.
Exactly. It's not just a haze at that point. It is a wall.
Yeah.
You simply cannot safely operate aircraft in those conditions, so everything stops.
It is incredible to think about. That sand, just tiny little rocks from a desert, can ground a Boeing 747.
It really shows how fragile our systems are when nature decides to do something extreme.
It absolutely does. But sadly, grounded flights are often the least of their worries.
Yes.
Because sometimes Calima does not come alone.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes it acts as an accelerant for other disasters. And this is where we get into the really scary stuff in Section 3, the disaster scenario.
We need to talk about 2020.
2020, yeah.
This event is seared into the memory of so many residents in the Canary Islands. It wasn't just the dust that year.
Right.
It was the combination of the dust and the intense wind acting on something else entirely. Fire.
So you had the Calima winds blowing at the same time.
Yes. Strong winds are part of the delivery system for Calima, as we discussed.
Right, the conveyor belt.
Exactly. And in 2020, those winds rapidly spread 3 separate wildfires in Tenerife and Gran Canaria.
Talk about an absolute nightmare. You already can't breathe because of the dust, the sky is glowing orange, and now there are literal wildfires closing in on you.
It was a perfect storm in the absolute worst sense of the term.
Yeah?
The impact was severe. About 2,000 residents were forced to evacuate their homes.
Wow.
And imagine trying to evacuate from a raging fire when visibility is already compromised by dust and the air you are breathing is literally toxic.
Toxic feels like the exact right word there.
Yeah.
I saw a statistic in the source material about the air quality from that specific weekend in 2020 and actually had to reread it to make sure I wasn't seeing things.
You probably saw the global ranking.
Yes.
That weekend, Gran Canaria had the worst air quality in the world.
The worst in the entire world.
Yes.
Worse than massive mega cities with heavy industry.
Yeah.
Worse than anywhere else on the planet.
Worse than anywhere. The particle density was shocking. It was about 40 times the amount considered safe by the World Health Organization.
40 times. Not double, not triple. 40 times the safe limit.
It puts a massive, massive strain on the human body. And going back to the transport issue we talked about, this was happening while the entire transport network had collapsed.
Because of the wind and the dust shutting down the airports.
Yes. During that crisis, 745 flights were canceled outright.
Oh, my God.
And another 84 flights had to be diverted to completely different airports.
So imagine being a tourist there. You saved up for the dream vacation.
Right.
You're on the island. Suddenly there's a fire. The air is poisonous. You can't see 50 meters.
Right.
And your flight home just got canceled. You are trapped.
You are. It really highlights the vulnerability of island communities to these large-scale atmospheric events. There is simply nowhere to go. You just have to ride it out.
It's terrifying. It really is. But I think it is also important to understand for anyone listening that this is not just a one-time freak event. No.
Definitely not.
The 2020 storm was severe, obviously, but Calima itself is a regular visitor.
It is deeply baked into the climate cycle of the region.
So let's map this out for our listeners in Section 4. Let's look beyond the Canaries. First off, the seasonality. Does this happen all year round? Like, can you book a trip in December and be totally safe?
Well, the seasonality actually depends on where you are geographically.
Okay,
If we are talking specifically about the Canary Islands, Calima usually happens in the summer.
in the summer. Okay, so right during peak vacation time.
Unfortunately, yes.
And how long does a typical event stick around?
Typically, it lasts for 3 to 5 days.
Wow. So if you were there for a one-week holiday, it could potentially ruin the vast majority of your trip.
It absolutely could.
That is a long time to be stuck inside a hotel room wearing a mask.
Yes.
But what I found really interesting in the research is that the Canary Islands aren't the only victims here. This dust actually has a passport. It travels.
It definitely does. The geographic reach is quite extensive. It is not just limited to the Canaries.
Right.
Strong southerly winds can actually bring Saharan dust all the way over the Mediterranean as well.
But the timing is different for the Mediterranean region, right?
Correct. For the Med, this mostly happens during the spring months rather than the summer.
Okay. And which countries are we talking about here? Who else is getting dusted by the Sahara?
The list is pretty long. It includes Spain and Portugal on the mainland.
Okay.
It reaches Malta. It hits Italy, specifically Sicily, which makes sense given how far south it is.
Right.
And it even reaches Greece, specifically the island of Crete.
So this is really a broader Southern European phenomenon.
It is. It connects the Sahara Desert to the entirety of southern Europe.
It really gives you a sense of how small the region actually is in terms of weather systems.
Yeah.
We draw these borders on a map and say, this is Spain, this is Algeria.
Right.
But the wind does not care about borders.
No, the wind doesn't care at all. And that is the why of the reach. It connects back to the bigger picture of global wind patterns.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is a fluid system.
Yeah.
It constantly flows. And if that atmospheric flow connects a desert in Africa to the olive groves of Italy, well, the dust is going to make that journey.
Is endlessly fascinating.
It really is.
So let's wrap this up. We have gone on quite a journey today. From the scorching sands of the Sahara, where diurnal warming creates this massive instability.
Yep.
We have watched the Harmattan winds lift millions of tons of earth 20,000 feet into the sky.
This conveyor belt.
Right, the conveyor belt. We tracked it across the ocean, riding that marine inversion, and we have seen it land, causing everything from bizarre mud drizzle and fog to massive airport closures and serious health crises.
It's quite a journey.
Yep.
And it really highlights the dual nature of Calima.
How so?
Well, on one hand, it is a fascinating meteorological mechanism.
Yeah.
The pure physics of it, the heat transfer, the global circulation, the atmospheric inversions, that is genuinely interesting science.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, it is a highly dangerous, highly disruptive event that grounds flights, hurts people's lungs, and in extreme cases like 2020, it exacerbates deadly wildfires.
It's a stark reminder that nature is beautiful and awe-inspiring, but it is also powerful and completely indifferent to our flight schedules.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, I think it raises an important and somewhat provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
I like the sound of that. Let's hear it.
It forces us to reconsider the connectivity of our planet.
Okay.
Because we often think of weather as local.
Right.
We look out our kitchen window and we think, this is my weather today.
Right. What's it doing in my town?
But Calima proves that a sunny day in Tenerife or a clear, beautiful view in Sicily is entirely dependent on how the sand is heating up in a desert thousands of miles away.
Wow. We are all downwind of something.
We truly are. Everything is connected.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for diving in with us today. It has been a whirlwind, literally.
A dust swirl, perhaps?
Yeah, fair enough, a dust swirl. And to you, the listener, next time the sky looks a little hazy outside your window, maybe check the air quality index. You might just be breathing in a little piece of another continent.
Indeed you might.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.